Hi, and welcome to Community Producers. I'm your host, Tanya Plain-Eagle, and coming up, we have a wide variety of segments developed and produced by our partners in the community. Today, we are at Garden Retreat, where we will get some tips on how to manage your gardens this spring. But first up, the Building Future students in Airdrie have made some developments in the home they're making. Let's check it out.
The program is basically a bunch of teenagers building a house and getting our high school education at the same time, which is really fun.
For the last month, we've been doing painting, carpentry, and we are now doing tile and laminate. We're now installing that.
So you have the tiles and you just line them up like they're pieces of Lego almost, and then you just clip them in and then hammer them down.
I don't think that the program is made to highlight the trades. It's more of a learning experience in a different environment for kids to learn in, and this is just a part of it to help you become more engaged in the community.
You learn extremely valuable skills which you might not use right now, but in the future they will carry out. You can use them later on in life.
One of our three main things is problem solving, and I find like I can problem solve a lot easier this year than I could any other year.
I've learned a lot on how to time manage, which is a very vital skill to have, especially when you're going into like the real world.
I love it here. It's a great escape from the prison of school that you're in for 7 hours a day. We still do school inside, but it's a lot more open with discussions, and we don't just sit there and take notes all day. We actually talk and speak our opinion a lot.
So we are partners with Rocky View School Division. We set aside two homes every year, and we build them with the students who come to site. We provide all of the safety equipment the students require, the safety training, and then we also produce the plans and drawings and set up the classroom for the kids to do their regular schoolwork out of, and all the day-to-day organizing of a build and picking our trades that we want to expose the kids to for the most value. This program is important to McKee Homes because it is a family-run business, and we build in Airdrie. And McKee Homes was started by Martin McKee and is still ran by his family to this day. So we do a lot here in Building Futures, but we do a lot in this community because we believe in Airdrie, and we believe in every kid that comes into this program. And we see them around town. I see them covered in drywall mud walking down the street, and everyone waves, and it creates this sense of community on a much larger scale.
This cabinet, I actually put that in.
Did you?
Yes, I did. I also put this in. It was very difficult.
It's interesting that over the course of a year, the same 32 people in a small space working together, it just creates almost like more of a family environment.
What did you do in this room?
I didn't do anything in this room. Oh, I actually did the electrical wiring.
There you go.
Ah! And the insulation.
Yeah.
I sincerely hope that they leave the program feeling like they were a part of something big and that they were an important part of something big.
Alexia and YYC is taking us behind the scenes at Make Fashion to take a look at how fashion and technology come together.
Hi, I'm Alexia YYC, and today I'm taking you behind the scenes of Make Fashion here at Arch Loft Makerspace, where high tech and high fashion come together. When did Make Fashion start?
We started 5 years ago. This is our 5th year that we started just with the intention of hosting workshops and teaching people how to add lights and sensors to clothing and accessories. And now we have a team of about 120 people producing the show and about 40 garments that will be on the runway.
Can you tell me a little bit more about some of the garments that are going to be on the runway?
I'll tell you about one that I'm super excited about. There's an indigenous designer. It's the first time that she participates with Make Fashion, and she's honoring, her roots, all the indigenous background and heritage. And for me, that's a very important way to celebrate Canada's 150th anniversary. And what a better way to do that than a fashion tech garment.
I'm here with Ashley, and she's one of the designers. So can you tell me more about your outfit?
Yeah, so I have designed a design that's based off of Little Red Riding Hood, and so I have a rain jacket that will have rain sensors on the shoulders, so when it rains the hood will go up, and on the skirt I have lights that will flash, so you will never be without light, and on my shirt I have laser cut a stylized forest, and I have a EL panel that has another tree on it that kind of shows like a door to out of the forest.
How long does the process take for designing and making the dresses and garments?
The process, it's from, just drawing and trying to think what story you want to tell with the piece. Make Fashion is a lot about what story you want to tell with the fashion that you wear. So some pieces are super complex, telling a story of, how you want to, express when you're sad or when you're happy. Some others are very complex, like Irina's dress, like you see back here, that has lasers. And it's about people that are shy, expressing people like who they are in a social setting.
So can you tell me a little bit about the dress?
So we designed our dress as something kind of young and fun. We really wanted to do something that was kind of inspirational, so we picked a Marilyn Monroe dress, which is the iconic white dress that she had, and we kind of spiced it up a little bit with a lot of jewels and lights and some very vibrant jewelry.
What does your dress do?
Our dress lights up in a variety of different ways, so we have our jewelry interacting with our dress to make it kind of a fun show.
So can you tell me more about this necklace?
This is a nebula necklace. This was designed by one of our first designers, Vlad Lebrovsky, and it was part of a garment. It was designed to have all these glowing gems in the cowl and the skirt, and then it turned into the product. So now that's what you can wear for a show.
Can you tell me more about the 3D printed things like this bracelet?
So one of the cool things about working in a makerspace like where we are right now in Art Loft is that you can 3D print anything you want. So you just imagine what you want to do, and then we can have that 3D model and print it. And within a few hours, you have a bracelet or a necklace or a hat or whatever you like.
Do you take your products anywhere else?
Yes. We have become the world-leading international show for fashion technology. And we travel from the US, Europe. We've been in China probably about 3 or 4 times a year. And right after this fashion show, we're taking the pieces to Dublin, we're taking them to Hong Kong, Vegas, Shanghai.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
After learning about all this high-tech material and fashion with functionality, I think I'm ready to walk the runway. Until next time, I'm Alexia in YYC.
The 2017 municipal elections are coming soon. City Matters has some information on what we could expect this year. Let's take a look.
"2017 is an election year, and we are going to be holding a general election in the City of Calgary, where Calgarians can elect their mayor, members of council, and school board trustees. This is the most fundamental opportunity where citizens get a chance to determine the shape of the government of the City of Calgary and have an input into the decisions that are made and the direction that the city will go in. The decisions that come out of municipal government affect us at our very core. These decisions are things that impact us on a daily basis, whether it be from transit service to recreational facilities to garbage collection to even future facilities that are built for residents of the City of Calgary. Mail-in ballots are highly encouraged for individuals that believe that they will not be in the City of Calgary during the election. You can request a mail-in ballot as early as July 1st by visiting electionscalgary.ca. Mail-in ballots will be sent to you after nomination day. I think it's important to remember that the elections are not limited to just one day. Any eligible voter can take advantage of the advance vote, where you can vote at any of the advance vote stations across the city at your convenience. The advance vote runs from October 4th until 11th, with the exception of Thanksgiving Day. I hope that we all as citizens understand how important municipal elections are. Local government affects our lives on a day-to-day basis. So make sure you come out and vote and encourage others to come out and have their say.
And we're here with Stacy Larson from Garden Retreat, and today we're going to talk a little bit about gardening, when we can start gardening. So when is a good time, I guess, in the early spring to really start gardening?
Well, everything sort of depends on what you want to grow. So if we're going to grow from seed, typically we want to wait until the temperatures outside don't drop below freezing at night. So things like carrots and peas and potatoes, typically the end of April or, beginning of May into that time frame. Things like tomatoes and cucumbers are very temperature sensitive. So you might want to get an earlier jump on those types of things and plant them inside first and then transplant them out, typically last week of May, beginning of June.
Okay, so I know May, the weather is kind of unpredictable. What could we do in the sense where it starts to snow maybe, or it gets a little cold and you have stuff outside?
Well, if it gets cold outside, there's always shade cloth, or not shade cloth, but row cover, which can be put over top of the plants to give it a little bit of an insulating value, or even if you had a bed sheet to put over the top of it, you just want to keep it up above the plant, so somehow prop it up so it's not flattening the plants out. Snow itself isn't the problem, it's freezing temperatures. The snow usually acts as an insulator, so for your ground products like potatoes and carrots, that's fine, they're not going to freeze underneath the ground.
Okay, so what about just like plants, like not like flowers and stuff like that? If somebody wants to start planting flowers, when is that a good time?
Yeah, again, all plants are very specific, so some can go out a lot earlier than other ones can. If you're planting things like marigolds, they don't like any touch of cold or any type of frost, so you want to wait until those days are free. Other things like pansies, you can even get them outside now into containers. If it's going to get overly cold, again, just put an insulation blanket or any type of blanket over top of them to protect them.
Okay, thank you. And we'll be back with more community producers after the break. Welcome back. The Calgary Police Service are seeking some tips on a road rage incident that happened last year. Crime Stoppers has the details.
In the early evening hours of December 7th, 2016, a woman and her family were the victims of a road rage incident.
A lady and her young child were en route to this facility here in northwest Calgary to pick up another child from a hockey event. And somewhere in transit between 40th Avenue on 4th Street Northwest in this particular arena, she had an altercation with a motorist. As a result of this interaction, the occupants of the vehicle followed our victim and her family to this particular arena.
A verbal argument ensued and escalated into a physical altercation. The woman was able to grab a hockey stick from her vehicle to defend herself. During the struggle, one of the suspects got hold of the hockey stick and used it to shatter windows on the victim's vehicle. While the altercation continued, the victim's husband exited the arena and was able to successfully intervene. Both suspects then fled the scene in the BMW.
Over the course of the last several months since this was reported to us, the community has been fantastic in terms of providing information to us. However, given the vast amount of information that we do have, we are making another ask through Crime Stoppers to further some of the information that we've garnered as a result of our initial efforts.
The driver of the suspect vehicle is described as a man of Middle Eastern descent between the ages of 20 and 25, 5'7" to 5'9", with a slim to medium build. He had brown eyes, short black hair, and a chin-strap beard with a mustache. He was wearing a white winter jacket with a fur-lined hood, a white or gray sweater, and black sweatpants or dark-colored jeans. The second suspect is described as a man of Middle Eastern descent between the ages of 20 and 25, 5'10" to 5'11", with a slim to medium build. He also had short hair and a mustache with a goatee. Anyone with information on this or any unsolved crime is asked to contact Crime Stoppers. Remember, Crime Stoppers may pay a cash reward of up to $2,000 for information regarding this or any unsolved crime, the recovery of stolen property, drugs, or the arrest of any wanted person. Your tips are completely anonymous and confidential. You can talk, type, or text in your tips.
On this episode of Top 10, we go inside the Calgary Zoo and get more information about grizzly bears. Let's check it out.
Well, this year is Canada's 150th, and our friends at the Calgary Zoo are celebrating Canadian animals. We're here at the zoo today to find out more about our country's most amazing and iconic native species. Well, they were once known to range across the prairies. Now, grizzly bears have been classified as endangered. Can you tell us a little bit more, Sarah, about these endangered, beautiful giants?
Absolutely. So I'm going to look at where they are. Really does have a lot to do with what their endangered status is. So here in Alberta, they are on the threatened list. So that usually means we're in maybe 500 animals in our province. That is significantly reduced from what their historical population was. The good news about grizzlies is that if you give them the space, if you make sure that they have that space, that they can sustain a population. So great stuff happening in our national parks with those overpasses, the hunting ban, that's been a really important feature as well, and like just great hunting community behind it as well. And then, of course, this idea as well that we have to connect big pieces of habitat together for these big species. It's one of the reasons that we really like to put energy behind campaigns for conservation for big iconic species like that. We call them an umbrella species. They need a lot of space. So if you preserve space for them, everybody that shares that space with them benefits too, right? So they're a really good focus species. And of course, they're really quite charismatic and beautiful, and it's not a hard sell, right? They're gorgeous animals. Fun things here that I love watching for. I kind of feel like grizzly bears just can't stop renovating. Like they're just constantly, they've got these huge digging claws and this big hump of muscle on their back, and they're just always like, a hole there, yeah, that would look great. You know, so they're just, and you'll see them, this is the best part. They actually make little holes, and then they put that big bear bum in there, and they just like lie back. So fun to watch. So that's something you have a very good chance of seeing, because that's one of their main behaviors, digging.
I can dig it.
Yeah.
Up next, Chris Melroy shows us step-by-step instructions on how to build a mirror frame. Here's Woodworks.
Hey folks, welcome to Woodworks. My name is Chris, and I've been woodworking for about 20 years now. I do it on my spare time. I like to make other things out of the offcuts that I have from my job because I don't like to waste things. So today, I'm going to be making a mirror frame. What we need to do is we need to bring some material down to final dimensions, and I'm going to be starting with this 4/4 piece of maple. We will plane it down to dimension, and then rip it to a final width, and then we can start machining our parts. So I've gone ahead and jointed the material flat, and now I'm going to plane it down to a final thickness. So there you have it. We are down to 3/4 of an inch thick, and now I can start ripping them to size. Now that I've got my stock down to 3/4 of an inch, I'm going to rip it to width. I'm going to leave it a little oversized so I can plane it to a final thickness. It gives me a nice clean edge and something I can work with later on. Now, as you can see, I've removed my guards for clarity. Try not to reach over your blade as much as possible. Sometimes it's unavoidable. Make sure you always use a push stick when you're using a table saw. It's just a simple piece of 1/4 inch MDF with a notch in the back so that you can hook it right onto the back of your stock and keep your hands free. So now I'm going to take my stock down to 2 inches. You may have noticed me flipping the material every once in a while. There is tension in lumber, and if you take it all off the same side, you can actually curve your piece of wood. So make sure that if you're going to plane off of both sides. Now that we have our material to thickness, what I want to do is I need to cut the rails and stiles for the mirror frame. Your rails are going to be a 1/16 inch longer than your mirror, and your stiles are going to be 3 inches longer. Okay, so I have my pieces to dimension. The next thing I want to do is I want to cut a dado in the center of this to accept the mirror. Now basically a dado is just a groove. The thickness is going to be determined on my mirror. Seeing as how I already have the mirror, I'll be notching out something like that. So you want to make sure with some of these older tools in the backyard shop, fences may not always be square. Once you get your width, make sure that you're square from front to back. So you notice I passed that over the blade twice. What I've done is I've centered this groove. And although it may not be quite to width, I can just take my fence out until that fits. I'm pretty close, so I don't want to go too far. So there you have it. We got our dado that's going to fit around our glass. From there, I can continue doing the rest of the other 3 pieces, and then we will cut some tendons. So next we have the tongues that we're going to cut, and what I've done is I've cut my 1/2 inch mark back. Now it's very important which side of the line you cut on. If you cut on this side, you're going to be 1/8 of an inch too big. So I've placed an X on here, and today I'm going to use a set of dado blades, which is going to speed up the process. All I'm going to do is I'm going to get close, because I can always nibble my way in, but I can't put material back. There you have it. So we have our tongue and groove made. All I want to do now is I want to dry fit this to make sure everything's good before I go ahead and glue it all up. So we got a nice dry fit. Anytime you get a chance to use some of the natural characteristic of the wood, I encourage it because I just think it's so beautiful and we may as well show it off. My dry fit works. I'm going to go ahead and glue everything up. Now I'm using maple. The applications here work for any kind of material. I just happen to have this on hand, so I'm going with it. When you are gluing, you want to make sure that you keep your glue away from your mirror in this case. So I'm going to basically just go about a ½ inch back, and that will all squish up really nicely. And I'm going to do both sides because you want to get as much glue in as you can. Now, all these parts are finished length, so I want to make sure that when I get my clamps tight, that all my seams are nice and flush. Okay, so we're all clamped up. I'm using pipe clamps because they have excellent holding power, and we need to suck up all the joints so they stay nice and tight. The only thing I have to do now is I'm going to actually flip this over and just take a measurement from corner to corner and make sure that I'm square. At this point, make sure you wipe off any excess glue. It's a lot easier to remove it now than when it's dry. So I'm going to go corner to corner and make sure my measurements are the same. Oh, that's perfect. All we do now is let it dry. We are assembled, and all that's left to do is a final sand on it. Now, if you want to put a finish on this after you sanded, make sure that you tape off your glass. That just saves the mess, and it's an easier cleanup. So we've got it all sanded. The last thing you want to do is just break the edges. There's two reasons for that. One is so that you don't cut yourself because they're really sharp. And the other is you want to have something to have the finish to hang on to. If this remains really sharp, the finish won't stay on very long. You just take yourself a little piece of 150 grit sandpaper and just run along that edge. So now that you have it all sanded up, when you go to hang this thing, you can hang it any way you want. There's no rhyme or reason to which way is right or which way is wrong. So you can have your stiles running vertically if you wish, or you can turn it and have these running vertically. Any way is fine.
Thanks so much for joining us on this episode of the Community Producers. If you would like more information on joining our team, you could email phoenix@sjrb.ca. We'll see you next time.